Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Bob Pompeani, your number 25 of the program. As always, we have a lot to get into. We'll talk about Pitt, their embarrassing loss last night. Also, Penn State missed a golden opportunity. But the #1 topic on tonight's #1 Cochran Sports Showdown is going to be the Steelers at the halfway point. And here to talk about it is your panel tonight. We have Mark Kaboly from the Pat McAfee program, as well as Andrew Fillipponi of 93.7 The Fan. Mark, I'm going to start with you. The Steelers are 6-2. A lot of people have bought into this, especially with Russell Wilson, a quarterback. A lot of people nationally are talking about them as Super Bowl contenders. In your mind, are they?
Probably the same people are talking about how Russell Wilson shouldn't have started, right? So why
that would be me. Okay, thank you. You can identify me.
National people and Pony. So
and Mark.
I think it's a little premature, even though they're 6-2 here. I would say that they're AFC North contenders for sure. I mean, of course, they're a game ahead of everybody else in the division right now. We got to see what this second half brings. If they're able to continue to grow off of what we saw against the two New York teams, then it puts them right in there. I think obviously they have to maybe add somebody at the trade deadline. We'll talk about that later probably, but I wouldn't call them quite Super Bowl because I don't think they're in the same conversation right now as with the Kansas Cities and the Buffaloes of the AFC.
But if they're in the same conversation with Baltimore and you consider Baltimore a Super Bowl contender, then that should make the Steelers one.
Well, Baltimore is a team that you saw them today.
Yes.
I think they're, even though they're behind the Steelers in the standings, I think they might be a better team.
They have the worst pass defense in the NFL.
We saw that last week in Cleveland.
And they played Bo Nix, who's actually a better runner than he is a passer. He caught a touchdown pass today. It was actually a very athletic play. Tony Romo was marveling at it. They have the same statistical personality, the Steelers, as last year's Chiefs. Did you know that? Last year, Kansas City was second in scoring defense, and they were 15th in scoring offense. That's exactly where the Steelers are right now. They have a Super Bowl that's won. They have a quarterback that's won a Super Bowl, Mark, that you've been singing the praises of. You know that guy can get it done in big games because he's done it before. So, I mean, where do you stop the list of Super Bowl contenders? I would agree with you that I would put Kansas City and Buffalo ahead of them, but I have them third. I would pick them right now ahead of Baltimore because of Baltimore's leaky pass defense. You can't win a Super Bowl when you're giving up 300 passing yards a game, and that's what they're doing.
Unless you score over 30 points a game, which is what they're doing, and they had 41 more today. They seem to be unstoppable with Derrick Henry in the back.
You don't think defense wins championships anymore, Mark? You've given up on that?
No, I think it's
their defense stinks.
I think it's pretty even. I mean, I think you have to have defense and offense. But, you know, who would think at this point right now that Baltimore's weakest spot might be their special teams and their kicker? I mean, Tucker hasn't been very good this year, but
their secondary's bad and they don't get enough pressure is Baltimore's problem. Kyle Van Noy is their best passer.
I totally agree with that.
They're going to outscore teams. I thought that's how you said they win in the NFL nowadays.
Well, yeah, not every game has to be 35-38 or whatever.
It might have to be with them.
It's not great defense, but better than what Baltimore's doing, in my opinion.
All right, let's talk about a big day coming up. That would be November the 5th. It's Election Day, yes, but it's also it's also the day that the trade deadline is in the National Football League. Pony, I'll start with you. A lot of people think this team still is a receiver away. Russell Wilson has utilized some guys who weren't being as utilized under Justin Fields. Do they still need one, and if so, which one?
Two different words there, need and want. I've said need for months, but I've been evangelized by Russell Wilson's play. And so you look at what's available now, I don't think it's a need anymore. It's still something I want. I still want, what if George Pickens gets injured? Then you're really screwed. Okay, so
but you can say that about every position.
True.
That makes it a need then.
Does it?
If you're looking for depth, it's a need.
Okay, but fair point. I mean, if Alex Highsmith got injured, though, I wouldn't think their season was over because you still have T.J. Watt there.
But so if Joey Porter Jr. got injured.
Right. I mean, that is a good rebuttal by Mark, but are there guys out there that are significantly better? You're already shaking your head no.
Probably not.
Right? I mean,
you could upgrade a little bit.
The Rams won again today. Cooper Kupp, no, that's not happening. Is DK Metcalf going to get traded by Seattle? Probably not. I'd be interested in him. Adam Thielen, I mean, I'll take him for a late-round pick, but
that's a guy who's been hurt the entire season. He's in his mid-30s. I don't know what he provides, what they don't have right now. I still look at a guy like Mike Williams. I think he could help.
But Lazard's out now.
Yeah.
So do the Jets hang on to him? They just won on Thursday.
And they called that a desperation win for them where they needed. I want to ask you guys also about what Russell Wilson brings to this team moving forward against these teams they have to play? Because they're going to face, starting with the Commanders, a pretty good team at 7-2, and the rest of their AFC North. So what does he do that Justin Fields hasn't done, in your opinion, Mark? Because you've been tooting his horn quite a bit.
You had that horn out. You were playing that French horn for months.
I'm a little worried now because I toot this horn. They'll come back and shove it where whatever. if he struggles here, but Russell, what he does is I think he brings leadership. I'm not saying that Justin didn't. It's a different type of leadership that he can go into these games, like the games in Philadelphia, games against Kansas City, and prove that they are able to win these games. He's able to move the ball around. The play action passes are a bit invaluable right now, which helps the running game. I mean, everything they wanted to do when they put this team together in March is now coming to fruition because of Russell Wilson. They had a plan. They visionized what it was going to look like. Justin Fields just didn't fit that mold this year. Russell Wilson has. So I think they'll continue to get better. I think the offense will definitely continue to get better. The question is will the defense have one of those brain farts one game and give up the 35 points, and the offense can't match that, then all of a sudden
they got to clean up their tackling. That's what the bye week is for. They got to get in the lab and look at those things because the tackling effort.
Don't look at the Pitt tape.
Against the Giants was just pathetic from that team. What is he doing? Reminiscent of another one of your favorites, Mason Rudolph.
Winning.
Is that when the ball is a threat to go downfield, it changes the way that defenses play you. And Mason was able to get the ball deep. And Russell Wilson throws an accurate deep ball, and I think that opens things up in the run game. It makes him a more balanced attack. That's why we've seen Najee Harris play the way that he has. I do think, though, when you said this is how they drew it up, they thought the red zone offense would be better because Russ was so good at that last year. I think they missed Justin Fields in that regard.
Which will lead us into the next segment. That is, does Justin Fields have a role on this team, especially in the red zone? We'll get into that. Najee Harris, he doesn't have a contract after this year. Should the Steelers bring him back? We'll talk about that and more, and then later, Pitt and Penn State, all right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. All right, the Steelers move on to Washington and a very difficult schedule going down the stretch here. Let's talk about Justin Fields. We ended on that topic. So, Mark, his legs are undeniably much better than anybody that you're going to have on this roster. How should they use him in the red zone, if at all?
I think it's going to be situational based on opponent. You're not going to see him coming out there regardless of anything you can think of having him play just red zone offense all the time. I think it'll be situational. If they need something against Baltimore, there'll be a package in for him. He's just not going to be a big part of this offense moving forward. But I think obviously where you can use him the best is the red zone. I mean, he showed us through 5 games? Unstoppable. Unstoppable in the red zone. You have to use that to your advantage without overusing it to the point where you take Russell Wilson's out of the flow of the game. So it's a tricky situation. That's why I don't think it'll be that much.
And you, opponent?
I saw Taysom Hill score another touchdown on a rushing play again today. He gets used that way. Not that the Saints are a team you want to emulate based on what they did again this afternoon, but I thought there were situations against the Jets where I would have wanted him to go in near the goal line, one sequence where they ended up settling for a field goal. And I thought the same thing in this game. That doesn't mean 3 or 4 plays of Justin Fields. It means when you want to have a situation where there's a dilemma for the defense, is the quarterback going to keep it or is he going to give it to a running back? That's a bigger threat. Russell Wilson has moved better than I thought he would for a guy coming off a calf injury at 36 years old. But Tomlin said it. He's not anywhere close to the threat that Justin Fields is. So, yeah, I want to use
I would like to see both of them on the field, to be honest with you.
That's me too.
A wildcat type of situation, read the defense, see what it is, and you can motion one back and forth. Okay, you're taking one guy out of the play, but then you can have the threat of throwing the ball or the threat of running the ball, depending on the personnel out there. That's the way I would like it.
Let's talk about Najee Harris now. He was not afforded a 5th-year option, which means he's a free agent at the end of this year. He's running like a man who wants to make a lot of money, and he will somewhere. Will it be here, Pony, in Pittsburgh?
I would say right now, you're making your tongue. Is the tongue a sign that you're going to say yes?
No, there was
I'm
a gesticulation there.
I saw
right?
the
His
same
face.
thing.
I'm biting my tongue.
Okay, I'm going to say that I think there's a better chance of it happening than I ever thought before the season started. So you're asking me and putting me on the spot right now. I say yes at this moment.
At what
I think
price?
He signs an extension. It's
Henry
going
got
to
8
be
years.
more than what the 5th-year option was.
Okay.
So I think maybe
Or
like
$8 million, I should say, not years.
Yeah, I would say maybe a 2 or 3 year extension for maybe 3 years, $24 million. Mark?
I mean, that's probably where it would be. I mean, but I don't think they're going to do that. If they would have thought he was worth that, they would have gave him the 5th-year option. And I don't believe they want to see what he would look like in Arthur Smith's offense.
Well, that was exactly what I was going to say.
I know, because I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
So they
once a
lied
bit.
to us.
Yes, they did.
Okay.
Yes, they did. They lied to us. And you have to understand, Jalen Warren's going to get paid next. I think he's a restricted free agent.
but that won't
So he's
break
a
the
2 or
bank.
3. What I'm saying is, you got options. You got Cordell Patterson too, who's coming back. So all of a sudden, with this team right now, you got basically a 3-headed monster to be able to do that. I don't know if I want to pay Najee Harris
If he's running like this,
$bucks.
I want to pay. I'll pay him.
And the man never fumbles. I hate to put a jinx on him, but he doesn't. Let's talk about.
He's playing well. I'm
He's
not
playing
saying that, but
tremendously well. Let's talk about Cam Sutton, another guy who's coming back. They're going to get a lot of guys back from injury, so they're going to be healthy, and they're going to be deeper with Cam Sutton. I don't know what Cam Sutton's going to show up, but if it's the Cam Sutton we saw in Pittsburgh when he last was here before he went to Detroit, and the last year wasn't good there, and he got into some trouble. What happens to Beanie Bishop? Because he's been playing well. There have been some good moments and bad moments, Mark. What would you do with him?
right, 2 dogs, 1 bone, right? That's the way I would approach it. Maybe not right off the bat because he's been inactive here for.
Plus, we
the better
saw him
part
at
of 2
free
months.
safety in the exhibition season.
Yeah,
I thought
mean,
that was weird.
That was
what I
weird.
think is good for him is that he can play all 3 positions. Worst comes to worst, if you lose a guy like Dante Jackson, you could throw him out there. Okay, he struggled last year in Detroit, but at least he's better than maybe what they have.
James Pierre.
But what I saw from Cam Sutton when he came in here, I think it was late OTAs, early mini camp, he's a step above what you normally see, what Beanie Bishop was. Now, Beanie Bishop's gotten better, so it might be not a fair evaluation right now, but Cam Sutton, I think, takes his defense to a 1 step higher level. So I think within a week or two as in games, I think he'll eventually find his way in there. And I don't know what you do with Beanie Bishop. I mean,
He goes to the bench. He becomes a special teams player. That's what I think is going to happen.
Despite 3 picks.
Yeah, I think you
Tackles
tip your
for
cap to the
losses.
kid. He gets autographed footballs from
They-
Aaron Rodgers, probably with messages that tell him to go on a darkness retreat or to try therapeutic vomiting. But no, I think that we saw it with Russell Wilson going in for Justin Fields. He trusts the veteran. He loved Cam Sutton as a football player before he left for the Lions, and I think he gets his
good
job
player.
back.
Yeah.
I think he's a good
Therapeutic
player in a tough
vomiting.
position.
That was an Aaron Rodgers
That's the
thing.
thing, really. I never heard that.
Sounds
I
like
knew about
something
the darkness.
Starkey would do.
That's why he's not here tonight.
He might
Mark.
be doing that right now. We'll take a break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about Pitt and Penn State. Everyone's has an opinion about these 2 teams. What happened yesterday, we'll discuss next right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. All right, welcome back. We're talking about college football right now, and a disastrous day for both Pitt and Penn State. We're going to get to Pitt in a second, but we'll start with Penn State because they were ranked 3rd, a big matchup against Ohio State, and turned out to be the same kind of result that we've seen for the last 10 years, basically, which is Ohio State winning. Yet, if you look at the record, Andrew, with James Franklin against teams that are not named Ohio State and Michigan since 2022, Penn State's 28-1. Yet people are calling for his firing up there, which I think is way too premature for this because they still can navigate this road to a playoff. What's your stance on James Franklin?
I think he's on thin ice with fans, and he should be because they're paying him $10 million a year to win bigger games than Minnesota and Illinois. And the occasional time he plays Pitt or West Virginia. I mean, that's not the demands of the job have changed. When he first got the job, it was still coming out of the Paterno scandal. Keep the car in the right lane on the road. Now it's compete for national championships, and even more so with the expanded playoffs. And every time, his record, not just against top 10 teams, his record against the top 25 is 13-27. That's worse than Narduzzi's. I mean, he does not beat good teams consistently enough, Bob, and for the amount of money they're paying him, they should be fed up with him. But I don't think you fire him, Mark. I don't think you do that.
I don't think you can fire him
Because the buyout and everything else.
Oh, the buyout. I mean, the buyout's the buyout. I mean, people find money.
Well, the guaranteed money that you pay him to go away is what I mean.
I mean, they find the way to pay him one way or another. That's for sure. But I don't think you fire him. I mean, but the question is, I mean, you look what happened to the Ohio State-Michigan rivalry all the time. I mean, Ohio State owned Michigan, right? unless you beat Michigan, you weren't going to. Unless Michigan beat Ohio State, you were
Harbaugh
considered
was
a
in
failure.
that same
It was
exact
considered a
situation,
failure, right?
And Ryan Day's in that
Same thing
situation
here.
right now.
If he had lost yesterday, it would have been the same kind of
But you got to be careful what you wish for, because
Right.
if you do get rid of him,
Guess
then
who's
you're
saying-
going to lose to
guess
maybe
who's saying
Minnesota.
they'd like to have James Franklin when he's fired? The people at Florida State University right now,
Yeah.
who had nobody in their attendance watching these
But they
games.
could take him. I mean, if I'm a Penn State fan and he wanted to go take that job, I'd say good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with trying to find someone who could do the same thing. I mean, you may have the same roadblocks. And let me go back to the game yesterday. And I have a big problem. This is where I look at coaching and say, James Franklin and your offensive coordinator, you're first and goal at the 1 yard line, whatever it was. The game's in the balance. You have to score. They run the same 3 plays in a row, and then they ignore Warren the whole time in that. Mark, I just looked at that whole sequence of plays and said, what are you doing? You're running into the same exact area and with no success.
You would think one of those would work, though. It's not like they had to get many yards, right?
But it was the same play, it seemed.
Well, you would think eventually you would work. I mean, you can go back and pick a handful of plays out of that game and say, if this happened, or this happened. The bottom line is they just didn't get it done, and I think it was more than just some play calling. I mean, you got to have better quarterback play. You got to have. You can't give up leads like they did when you're leading late in that game like that. So I don't think you can point to one play. I understand what you're saying. You would like to mix it up and give it to some of your best ball players. But as we even saw with Pitt, this team should have scored more than 13 points.
I know, but like Bob is saying, if you're not going to beat Ohio State now, when are you going to beat them? Based on, it was at home. Ohio State's quarterback is a guy that you didn't even think was good enough to play at your school.
Why do you use that motivation?
Right? I mean, they are not like a juggernaut where they're scoring 50 points a game like they usually do. But
it's a colossal failure, yes.
Penn State's got 2. I mean, how is it that since Kerry Collins, they've developed one quarterback? Christian Hackenberg is the only guy that's gotten drafted in the 1st or 2nd round since Kerry Collins there. And Drew Aller's not going to, I mean, Bob, he's been a big-time disappointment for them, in my opinion.
We got to take a break on that note. When we come back, we're going to talk about Pitt now, what this does for them, because they're facing a situation where they got 2 ranked teams out of their last 4. 2 of them on the road, 2 at home. We'll talk about Pitt next. All right, let's talk Pitt. The ACC is pretty much up for grabs, although Miami looks to be the team right now after Clemson got absolutely dominated, I thought, at home by Louisville yesterday. But let's talk about Pitt. They went in a situation where they had a first opportunity, Andrew, on the road. Okay, first ranked team you've played. Their best win was against the ranked 33rd team, I think it was. Was Pitt overvalued at 7-0? And what do they do from here moving forward, knowing they still can be in a good situation if they win?
Well, I think they were properly ranked, but if you look at the quality of teams they've beaten and also their team lately, I mean, no, they're not. They won 3 games last year, right? So we've seen Indiana, we've seen BYU, but it's usually hard to go from 3 wins to 10 or 11 in a given season. I think Holstein has regressed. I think it's in tandem with their offensive line injuries. They got a backup left tackle. That's a big problem. And when their defense isn't getting 5 interceptions, Mark, it's not that great.
Say a word.
No, I mean, they were out of that game at halftime, Mark. I expected better.
Halftime?
Well,
When they got off the bus, they were out of that game, Bob.
You turned it off at halftime. I thought I would be disappointed over that loss, but just rewatching that, I don't think I was. Because I think SMU is just that much more talented, even if it might have been 2 players. It might have been the quarterback and the running back. Yeah, maybe the tight end.
I mean, I expected in the competitive football game.
They were a better team all around. And defensively, my goodness, you cannot continue to miss tackles like that. I mean, Narduzzi can blame all he wants on himself. We know he doesn't really mean it. It's his fault of not having them ready. I think SMU was just a superior team all across the board. And I just don't think that they would have ever had a chance. You needed to have better quarterback play, and like you mentioned, that's gone downhill, makes you wonder there. So I thought I'd be disappointed, but sometimes you just lose to a better team, and I view SMU after that game as a superior, better team.
All right, real quick, I have 1 minute, and I got to be strict with this time. Who has a better chance of getting to the college football playoff? We'll find out on Tuesday. They come up with their first rankings here. Penn State or Pitt?
Well, that's easy. It's got to be Penn State because Penn State, the rest of their schedule, they're probably not going to lose another game.
But if Indiana does well, how many teams from the Big Ten?
Bob, I mean, that being said, how many more games do you think Pitt's going to win? They're going to beat Virginia.
Let's say they win them all.
Okay, if they win them all, then yeah, because they'll probably end up being in the ACC championship game.
That's their only hope, I guess, right? Winning the ACC.
But then even then, SMU and Miami could get the 2 spots because they could go undefeated in the ACC play.
Yeah, even if they do win out, there's no guarantee that they're in. At least Penn State, if they win out, they have a pretty good shot.
Yeah, the Big Ten carries more, I think, clout
rightfully so,
than the ACC. All right, it's going to be interesting. And again, those rankings come out on Tuesday.
A lot
if
happening
you're considering
Tuesday.
an electric vehicle, but you're worried about the cost of a home charger, number one Cochran Kia is there to help you when you buy or lease a new EV this November. You're going to get a $1,500 credit toward your charger purchase and installation. Plus, their partner Treehouse can handle all the permitting and installation. This offer is only available at number one Cochran Kia, so mention this ad when you buy. Shop electric vehicles now at CochranKia.com. All right, we are out of time. Thank you so much for joining us. Mark, thank you for coming down. Andrew, thank you for coming down. We appreciate it. We'll do it again next Sunday night. And next Sunday, we'll know the results of the Steelers and Washington and what should be a very good football game. You'll see it live on KDKA all day on Sunday. That's going to do it for us. For Mark Kaboly and Andrew Fillipponi, I'm Bob Pompeani. Have a good week. We'll see you next Sunday night.